An incident that began this morning in Osakis ended with a Stearns County deputy shot in the forearm with an arrow from a compound bow. The suspect was then in turn shot by officers. More than one officer from different agencies fired their weapons. It is unclear at this time who actually shot the suspect. The suspect was shot in the left shoulder, the buttocks, and had a grazing wound to a hand. A black pickup stolen from Osakis exited into Sauk Center just after 10 a.m. this morning. Pulled into a John Deere parking lot and then the vehicle ran into another building. The vehicle then drove through multiple backyards, residential neighborhoods, and smashed into parked cars. Finally, it smashed straight into a garage on 10th Street in Sauk Center. Suspect, described as a 31-year-old male from the Osakis, Alexandria area, then ran into the home. Officers from Stearns County, Sauk Center, the Minnesota State Patrol, and Melrose Police and Osakis Police tried to clear the home. The suspect appeared with a compound bow from the second floor of the home and shot Deputy Paul Orvis through the left forearm with a target arrow. The compound bow belonged to the homeowner. Officers fired their weapon at the suspect, striking him more than once. Officers and then SWAT team negotiators started talking from the downstairs to the upstairs with the suspect. He told officers he had been shot. After nearly 2 hours of negotiation, the suspect appeared at the top floor and he was tasered by officers and taken into custody. He was brought to the Sauk Center by Sauk Center ambulance to Sauk Center Hospital and then taken by Airlink or Lifelink helicopter to St. Cloud Hospital for further treatment of his wounds. Deputy Orvis is in surgery to remove the arrow shaft and treat a possible broken arm. Deputy Orvis is a 17-year veteran with the Stearns County Sheriff's Office, and he is listed in good condition by the hospital. St. Cloud Police Department will handle the assault investigation of Deputy Orvis. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension will handle the shooting investigation. Search warrants and a crime scene investigation also will be conducted. Homes in the general neighborhood of the incident were evacuated by officers. There was no immediate threat to the general public. However, Sauk Center schools also went into lockdown. Multiple additional agencies also were at the scene, and we would be happy to take any questions.
Sheriff, can you explain what the front end of this, what happened in Osakis, how it all started, I guess?
You know, I haven't been able to talk to the Osakis police chief at the present time, but it appears that it's a stolen car in which he is essentially tearing up in those neighborhoods as well, then jumps on the freeway. Officers describe themselves as always being just behind him. In other words, he goes through a residential neighborhood, people call, and they get there and he's just ahead. I think he smashes through a gazebo and finally, again, runs straight into the garage. You know, one of the things that, you know, we've commented on is he finds the compound bow in the home. How many homes in rural Minnesota do you go in that aren't filled with weapons and rifles and pistols? And there were none in this home except the compound bow, and yet he used it to shoot our deputy.
And I'm sorry, and that happened in which community? The
Sauk Center.
It happened in Sauk Center.
Sauk Center.
That was at the tail, toward the back end of this. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Sheriff, had Osakis police had any idea about this man or had any calls to the service involving this man?
They had a call, Osakis police had a call actually from Douglas County saying that a car, or in this case a black pickup, was stolen. And that's what everyone was searching for. And then, of course, when he gets off into Sauk Center in Stearns County is when he then starts running into other vehicles and tearing through yards.
And that call for the stolen vehicle was also from this morning?
Yes, ma'am, it was from this morning.
Sheriff, the home that the suspect entered, was it an acquaintance or just a random home?
It was a random home.
Wow.
And this was stolen from the liquor store, the black?
I'm unclear on that.
But it was stolen in Osakis?
Yes, sir.
Just to confirm, still on the scene?
Go ahead.
Just to confirm, the bow was also a stolen item used He stole it from the home that he entered?
Yeah, he used the compound bow from the home he entered, belonging to the homeowner. So we actually knew how many arrows were left in the home, so that one arrow was fired, we knew there were 5 additional.
He shot on the outside of that house? Or
No, on the inside of the house. He appears at the top of the steps when they're trying to clear the home, and then immediately fires, striking straight through the officer's arm. So when we get to the hospital, you have the shaft coming out about this far and coming out about this far. And obviously the hospital and Sauk Center would have taken the bottom and the top of the arrow off. So it's the shaft. And again, it's fortunate that he was shot with a target arrow and not essentially a hunting arrow that would be used.
Is the black pickup still on the scene, or
it probably would still be at the scene, yes, sir.
How is the officer doing that was shot? He sounded extremely calm over the scanner from what I heard. And what would you say about the actual general response of the law enforcement to the scene?
Well, first let me say law enforcement response was wonderful. It was really well done. It was well coordinated. We felt like this ended as well as it possibly could have. The officer, I went to the emergency room and met him when he came. Good.
So he was shot in the house?
Shot in the house.
On the bottom of the stairs, and the gentleman shot him from. Can you describe the suspect besides a male?
Can you describe him as a 31-year-old man?
Was the home unlocked at the time, or did he break in?
It was unlocked.
But you say he drove that pickup right into the garage, right?
He drives it right in the garage, so it's going to be from the garage into the home is going to be unlocked.
Was the family inside at the time, or were they out?
There was no one in the home, thankfully.
Yeah.
Sheriff, do you have any idea of where the bow was in the house? Was it locked up, or was it in a...
I'm unclear. The lieutenant thought it was actually in the garage, but it may have been somewhere else. We're not sure at this time.
So
What about the motivation?
Known to law enforcement? Did you say
I'm not clear on that either.
On the motivation from the stolen vehicle, was it something that he had planned? Was it something that just spur of the moment? Or you're not sure?
I'm not sure.
Can you talk about the deputy, how long he's been with the department?
Deputy Paul Orvis has been with the Sheriff's Office for 17 years, and he has also been a member of VOTIF, the Violent Offenders Task Force, and has been obviously a very, very good officer for us.
Can you spell his last name?
Orvis.
Orvis?
Like the fly fishing company.
And what would you tell the public about this incident, about how the law enforcement community responded, about how the first responders were there? What would you say?
They responded rapidly, efficiently. Obviously, we had SWAT on the way very, very quickly. The negotiators were there quickly. Officers, their initial response, so the troopers, the officers are there after the shooting, handle the talking very, very well. Then they bring in, people are obviously trained at negotiation. And so it was handled very, very well. And we always, as any of these kinds of incidents, the response from St. Cloud Police, the Minnesota BCA, and the Minnesota State Patrol, we appreciate that.
Any other injuries besides the deputy and the suspect?
No other injuries.
Sheriff, when was the lockdown at the school lifted?
Lockdown in the school would have been lifted very shortly after 1 p.m. Excellent.
Sheriff, are you releasing the name of the suspect yet?
No, we would not until, typically we want to get him charged.
And speaking of the shooting, can you go back and take us into that? What was the law enforcement agency who actually shot at the suspect? How many times was he hit? Where was he hit? That kind of stuff.
He's been shot in the left shoulder, in the buttocks, and also a grazing wound to his hand. Multiple officers fired their weapon, obviously including the Minnesota State Patrol, but also local agencies. The deputy, at this time, it's pretty clear he did not fire his weapon.
So Belgrade police would be safe to say involved in the shooting?
No, probably Melrose police, and we're not unclear of who else.
And how large of an area was evacuated? Like how many homes?
So some blocks around, as we would always do in this kind of incident. So up and down the street behind and several blocks around.
Sheriff, just one more. Would you said he went through some yards or drove some crazy driving in Osakis too. I mean, is this just a joyride in a stolen car?
You know, I'm unclear what happened in Osakis, but what happened in Stearns County is whether it was a joyride or the person was high on something is unclear at this time. But he did tear through yards in Sauk Center, and I know he smashed a gazebo, and again, the officers are right behind him.
Safe to say you'll be looking into whether some kind of substance was involved.
Indeed, we will.
So when you say behind them, you mean they would get to a stop? They weren't chasing.
They were not chasing. At no time were any of our officers from Stearns County or the State Patrol actually chasing him.
Sheriff, you said you weren't releasing the name until after charges were filed. Do you have ideas what charges will be filed against him at this time?
No, I think the county attorney would best answer that.
So he was shot in the house only, not before he got to the house?
He was shot only in the house.